Are some Wi-Fi router antennas fake? Have there been fake ones? First, let's break down what we mean by the word fake. With one meaning, we're assuming that there's not actually an antenna inside the plastic housing at all. Literally, a fake antenna that does nothing. Discovering counterfeit external antennas on a model from any of the major Wi-Fi router manufacturers, such as Ubiquiti, Asus, TrendNet, Buffalo, Synology, Cisco, Linksys, Netgear, TP-Link, D-Link, or MikroTik, would undoubtedly constitute a significant and highly newsworthy event. It would likely trigger a relentless barrage of criticism and backlash against a respective company. This type of deception, whether an antenna is presented as functional but lacks internal components, would unquestionably be considered a deliberate and malicious act. To the best of my knowledge, there has never been a documented case of such deceptive practices occurring within any mainstream router brand. Many newer Wi-Fi routers issued by ISPs and offered by manufacturers don't even have external antennas, leading many to believe that external antennas are old technology, not needed, or even fake, simply because they haven't seen any with external antennas. The reason for no external antennas? Simplicity, aesthetics, and cost. That's it. That and simple internal antennas typically provide enough coverage for most homes. So, for most people, an antennaless router functions fine. Does that mean that external antennas are better? It totally depends on your coverage needs. One well-known situation that helped spread the myth of fake antennas wasn't even a Wi-Fi router, but cell phones. Back in the late 80s and early 90s, a well-known cell phone manufacturer's flip phone had a pull-out antenna that appeared to be attached to nothing. No cable or wires inside whatsoever. Appearance from first-hand inspection can be deceiving because the antenna actually did do something. The retractable antenna, despite not actually being attached to anything, acted as a parasitic element, close enough to couple signals to and from the phone. When the antenna was pulled out, it would pick up the signals just far enough away from the user's head to ever so slightly increase the signal strength. The effect was very small, but just enough to get you that one extra bar. It no doubt looked fake to anyone disassembling the phone, but it actually did serve a purpose. Another instance again wasn't even a Wi-Fi router, but a USB Bluetooth dongle. This dongle was taken apart, and lo and behold, nothing attached to the plastic antenna. This does look like a flat-out act of deception because Bluetooth can utilize small antennas similar to 2.4 GHz Wi-Fi, as it uses the same frequency range. Bluetooth doesn't need an external antenna any more than Wi-Fi needs an antenna, but they can help with range, specifically the reception. Now, playing devil's advocate, the company could have simply repurposed the same enclosure that was also used with their Wi-Fi dongle that did have a functional antenna, but rather than create a new plastic shell for the Bluetooth-only model, they simply repurposed what they already had. The large amount of wasted space inside the case also hints at fitting a larger Wi-Fi board. That makes sense. But does it look deceptive? It's definitely not good for perception. The other interpretation of the word fake we can examine is the fact that is there actually an antenna inside of the housing, but the size of the housing is deceptive. One instance of this is a video from a YouTuber showing to have discovered fake antennas on a particular router. They're not fake in the sense of there not being an antenna inside, but they did make them much longer than they needed to be, giving the appearance of being a high-gain antenna with farther reach than they actually have. In the video, you can see that two of the antennas seem like they're missing an antenna element completely. I immediately assumed that they're most likely the 5 GHz antennas, so to confirm this, I did a quick search and found the compliance certification report on the router in question. You can see which two antennas it was in the video, and after reviewing the compliance material, it did turn out to be the two 5 GHz antennas. That part makes sense. But still, there's the blatant deception with the antenna housing length. Again, the perception doesn't look good. If the actual element length is just a bit shorter than the plastic housing, it's whatever. But if the element is less than half the length of the antenna housing, that's not a good look. There's a couple of ways that you can spot if an antenna is at least not completely fake. If the router in question has a screw-on antenna, or what's technically called SMA connectors, it's highly unlikely that it's fake. If a manufacturer went to the trouble to spend money on adding the male and female SMA connectors, they already spent most of the money needed to actually add full antennas. What's nice about SMA connectors is that you can easily change out antennas with different dBi gain antennas, allowing a bit of customability. The most common style of external antennas on routers and devices is the non-removable molded plastic style that can rotate usually up to 360 degrees and bend up to 90 degrees, allowing a bit of adjustability. These could be easy to fake and not have an antenna inside, since it would require disassembling the router to check for the radio antenna leading to it. But again, there hasn't been a case of this with a leading Wi-Fi router manufacturer. Now, having a screw-on SMA connector still doesn't mean that it actually has a radio for it. You can search online for pictures or videos of people disassembling nearly any router model, so if you have doubts, you can always look for disassembly videos. Moreover, each Wi-Fi router and device undergoes rigorous certification inspections tailored to the specific regulations of the country in which they are intended for sale. The examinations encompass comprehensive imaging of both the internal and external components of the devices, accompanied by detailed documentation of the device's build specifications. These detailed test results may not always be readily available on the manufacturer's official website, making them occasionally a challenge to locate, but they are accessible through other channels. You just have to search through Google. To be eligible for sale in the U.S., Wi-Fi devices must undergo meticulous FCC certification, which assesses radio frequency emissions, power levels, and a multitude of other technical criteria to guarantee compliance. This process also necessitates submission of the aforementioned testing report we previously discussed. In Canada, devices need to meet IC, or Industry Canada, certification standards, akin to the FCC's requirements. Within Europe, adherence to the Radio Equipment Directive, or RED, is obligatory, while in Japan, the certification is overseen by the Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communication, or MIC. Although it may appear that manufacturers could easily deceive regarding certain aspects of routers, in the vast majority of cases they are constrained from doing so. Certification processes may not always explicitly identify fake components added by the manufacturer for aesthetic purposes to deceive consumers. However, it's crucial to emphasize that manufacturers cannot falsely claim a product possesses a feature it does not, as such a claim would undoubtedly invite a strong legal case for false advertising and potentially destroy an entire company's reputation.